All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the 12 Team Podcast. This is 12 coming to you with another question of the day type thing, related, of course, to anime. And what we're talking about here today is the evolution of the villains inside anime, such as them going from pure evil villains to relatable characters. We look at today, and we're going to dive into one of the shifts that anime storytelling has had, and just how these actual anime villains went from pure evil forces to morally complex characters. And we're going to think about, of course, classic villains that we all grew up watching that were just pure evil, and compare them to the ones that we see today, especially with new gen anime. And are these relatable villains better, or do we sometimes miss the simplistic, pure evil villain themselves? To start off with, of course, our classic villains that we have inside here, the faces of evil that we know and love. Let's start off with some of the OG characters, such as Frieza from Dragon Ball Z, Dio from JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, or even Naraku from Inuyasha. These guys weren't here to make you think. They were here to simply destroy. Frieza took out an entire planet just because he said, I did not want these monkeys to come back and overtake anything that I'm doing, as they're trying to gain power. Put them a death ball, blew them all away. Pure evil. He loved it. Was no questions behind it. Was no ulterior motives. He just wanted to make sure that they were gone and he could continue to rule in peace. They didn't have you thinking of, oh, should I root for Goku, or should I root for Frieza? Should I root for Joe, or should I root for Dio? Should I root for Inuyasha? Should I root for Naraku? No, it was not like that at all. It was clear cut and right to the point of who you should be exactly rooting for. Frieza wanted power beyond all means. Dio wanted, of course, to be in control of everything. And Naraku simply was just a menace just because he was like that and just wanted to cause havoc. That was, of course, the beauty of these characters. It was just a simplistic, their evilness wasn't up for debate, and it gave us a clear reason to cheer for the heroes. But, there's always a but. Was that simplistic style limiting the characters' development or their growth? Could you really say that Frieza had depth to him, especially when he was being just pure evil? Now with Super coming around, he does have a small little change with things, but OG Frieza, we all know, was like that. But there are characters now that are more relatable, and it is jumping us over into the, of course, the rise of the villains, and a rise of not just any villain, but the relatable villains. Today, we look at some villains that are no longer just bad, but they're written to be either understood or even pitied, such as Eren Yeager from AOT. And of course, we look at Makima from Chainsaw Man. With Yeager, he was written as the antagonist for the final arc. 100% was just out there, a man on a mission to have an 80 versus 20 debate of who's going to survive this population wipeout that we're going to go ahead and do a population control. And he was the person doing the controlling, with the colossal Titan army walking the face of the earth. He was not just put there just to be, this evil guy. But we look at things such as the root of his trauma that he had, especially growing up, his upbringing, and of course, him wanted to protect the ones who he thought should be protected. And those were the loved ones that he had behind him. Can we really sit there and say that Eren Yeager was a bad guy? Well, I can for sure definitely say that, but you can understand him inside of a way. And then with Makima from Chainsaw Man, she is one manipulative SOB. She does have her own actions that lead to her purpose, and of course, it's tied into her control, like complex / I need to be the height of this hierarchy. She's inside of a way that makes you just sit here and be terrified yet fascinated about wanting to learn more about her. This shift allows us to go through a more complex storytelling, and this complex storytelling that we have that we're going through aren't just making villains obstacles. They're flipping the script up on a lot of things, and they're making these reflections to these people are becoming reflections of either the heroes or the societies that they represent. Prime example, Shigaraki, and or even look at Toga, and those My Hero characters are villains, of course, but they're a villain of the product of their environment. You look at this today, you see a lot of people who are products of their environment, and you just think, oh well, yeah, that's just their upbringing. They mean nothing. All the stuff that we've heard growing up, especially people of, but I digress. I want to jump on some of the pros and cons, of course, of being a relatable villain that we are going to look at just a little bit more. So we tend to slap labels on things such as good or evil or bad. But on the other hand, we look at things that are more relatable. These villains give us a much more engaging narrative. And I can say that out of the old anime versus new anime, it does make things a little bit more lively as they go through and try to make that mix, that shift of like, I'm an antagonist, but you'll never know what side to choose because my backstory is simply full of trauma, and this hero just wants to be a hero and stop me from, I guess, getting rid of my trauma and the way that I want to do it, my own coping styles. Cool, respectable, but they're not morally correct. And that's when you're forced to ask that question. Where does the morality and the perspective come into play of these villains nowadays? Like, would you make the same choices that they made if you were put inside their shoes? Would you sit here and do a population control march as Eren Yeager with a colossal titan army to take out 80% of the population? Can you sit here and say that you would do that? Then on the flip side, we do look at some of the stuff like we just want to have a villain be a villain. These villains could do whatever they want as long as they're true to their evil cause, such as One for All. One for All from My Hero Academia. He's a reminder that how it is good to have a villain just be a villain without every complex motive going on behind them. We look at some of these unapologetic evilness. There is no backstory needed. And we look at some of the things that he has done, and there's no question to it at all. Like, no, like you just want sheer chaos and destruction. And sometimes we just want to be there for that chaos and destruction. It keeps us focused, of course, on the hero's growth, such as Deku's growth, as he has to go through and carry on the legacy of his senpai, I would say, because I don't think successor is the right word to use. He's the successor for All Might, but it just makes you question it. Like you don't have to question anything at all, but it just gives us, and just shows the growth that these characters have to go through. So here's a question to you that we want to like to ask. It is, does every villain need to be relatable? Or are we losing some of the fun by overcomplicating things that go on with these villains inside of their own little realms? To wrap everything up, we come back and bring it all back. Anime villains have, of course, come a long way. They've come one hell of a way to where they are now. From embodying pure evilness to being complex, layered characters. But both approaches, of course, have their cons and their pros that go behind it. And they have their places inside of our anime hearts. And we just want to go ahead and just love or hate or be a part of the journey to see what's next. And it depends on the story that's been written out there. Is this a story written to have a complex, evil character, villain? Or is it one of those stories that's written out there to just have somebody who is just pure destruction at all times? Do you prefer classic villains like Frieza, or are you more on the lines of like the Makima, Eren Yeager antagonist type things? Let us know though down below us in the comments, or DM us on social media if you want to comment. We would love to see your comments pop up a lot more. But before we sign off here, it is a special day because today is 12/16 day, as well as 16's birthday. I know it's it's actually really cool to have that as a factor. Your birthday is the day of our podcast day. So of course, want to give a huge shout out to my co-star 16. He's rocking and rolling. He's finally inside of his Dirty 30 era. It's time for Wardale, Stephen Curry to come out the entire year, and he's gonna be draining some threes along the way. 16, love you, brother. From the bottom of my heart. Wish we can actually do something today up on his day, but of course, I gotta work. We linked up over the weekend, had some fun stuff. Check out our TikTok page and our Instagram page if you want to find out what we did. And if you want to get updated with everything that we're doing and just want to stay in touch with us, especially when we do posting, make sure you guys are hitting down below some of those things, such as the like button, share button, hit that subscribe button so you're kept up to date with us every single time. And you can enter our raffles. We do giveaways, milestone giveaways. We hit a certain milestone, we do a giveaway. That person gets contacted, goes from there. And then, of course, make sure you guys hit the notification bell so you never miss any drops from myself or from 16. But until then, this is 12 officially signing off.